This is Heart.
So Guy, you're the CEO, so you're right at the top of the tree. How have things changed for you over the past, how many weeks it's been now? 8, 10 weeks?
Well, that's a really good question, John. And I guess from my perspective, initially there was that whole sort of sense of worry. Wow, what's this going to look like for us? But I think relatively quickly, it was very clear that the vast majority of our services would still be needed. They were essential, critical services to local families, local people who needed it. And so not much changed. The only real difficulties for us were closing some of our community hubs, community centres, and also needing to close some of our community gyms on the basis of the government advice. So we can't wait to get those open again, as they're a vital place for people to exercise and meet people and keep up with their physical health. But in housing, in youth, in family support, it's very much business as usual, although of course business as usual has changed. But yeah, we realised very quickly that the vast majority of our workers are in fact key workers, and their services were needed very much on the front line, whether that was a remote front line, a virtual front line, or in hostels and accommodation as things currently stand.
So the nursery is an important part for you, isn't it? And obviously that's quite critical for key workers, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you're exactly spot on. I mean, I believe one of the people who is heading up the COVID response for Watford General Hospital, their child actually goes to one of our nurseries. So, you know, we feel just so delighted to be able to keep those critical services open. And at the moment, our nursery in Abbots Langley still has 44 children in it, all of, key worker families. And so my feeling is if we had closed that, as many nurseries have done, then what would be happening to those children? What would be happening to those parents? That would be a key part of the local COVID response that would be out of action.
So clearly, like everywhere, there's a huge homelessness issue. Hertfordshire is no different. What's the picture looking like for that at the moment?
Well, you're exactly right, John. Hertfordshire is no different. And in fact, the government was really clear that it didn't want any people sleeping rough as we go into this crisis. And in fact, as an entire homelessness sector, huge amounts were done over a very, very short period of time to get people off the streets. If I take an example of our Watford hostel, incredible things were done there, working with partners and with local authorities. And I have to say, the local authorities in Hertfordshire, both at district and county level, have been fantastic people to work with. And as you know, as listeners will know, we have an amazingly resilient and impressive charity sector as well. So working with those guys, it was an incredible achievement. I think the rough sleepers in Watford went from something like more than 80 down to just a handful in a really, really short space of time. From our own perspective, we created another 25 bed spaces. And in fact, across our area, that was just Watford, but across Hertfordshire, I think we've added another 40 bed spaces so that people who were sleeping rough can now have a safe, secure accommodation and support.
So I'm gathering that as a charity, the two things that you will want to press upon people is donations and probably volunteering. How is that looking for you at the moment, and how can people help you?
Well, that's a really good question. Thank you. And I think, there's so many good things that are taking place at the moment. So therefore, anything that people can do above and beyond that just really, really helps. So we welcome volunteers. Our website is oneymca.org, and there's lots of information there about how people can get involved.
So families obviously in lockdown in Hertfordshire. You are, I am, everyone is. Obviously, that's affecting everybody differently. How are you helping that situation?
Yeah, thank you, John. We are wonderfully commissioned by Hertfordshire County Council to deliver the family support service, which particularly for our patch, which is the east of Hertfordshire, means that we're in contact with literally thousands and thousands of families with those aged from 0 and in fact just before birth all the way up to age 11. So we're in the brilliant situation where every single month we are sending thousands of text messages. There are thousands of telephone calls, and I think at the moment we're in contact with more than 5,000 families who have higher risk categories. They might be a bit more vulnerable, need a bit more help. So our teams have done an amazing job, and there are more than 100 in the team. I'm blown away by the efforts they're making. There are newsletters. There are people who are enrolling for online courses. There's a Facebook Live with live baby singing together. There are online training opportunities. There's a daily story and playtime on YouTube. There are Zoom meetings, and so far Facebook reckons that we've reached more than 20,000 people in the last month alone. So I think what I can comprehensively say is that although we know it's tough for families, particularly those with really young families that don't go and sit where they're told or do their homework quietly or go and read a book, actually what we are seeing is huge stories of hope, and people are coming and telling us just how valuable those services are being.
So, Guy, what about the teenagers then? Because they're the difficult ones in this situation to look after at the moment. How's that going for you?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and one that I guess we're quite concerned about, because this is one of those times that sticks in all of our memories. But for so many of our teenagers, they are learning how to be young adults at this time, and this really does knock a number of them sideways. Wonderfully, we have a really strong and really proactive youth work team, and they are meeting so many young people online in this new way of working. They're offering mini mentoring. There are 5 Zoom youth clubs per week. There are opportunities for contact on Facebook, on Instagram. You can search everything by looking at One YMCA Youth. That's a great place for people to get their information. And we're generally seeing that we're able to ring about 100 young people every week, sending them text messages of support. If any of your listeners have a young person that might benefit from that, then again, look us up at oneymca.org.
Guy, it's been brilliant to chat to you. Thank you very much for your information.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you, John.
This is Heart.